Hello, Just Too Good here, and today, continuing my series on cancelled LEGO sets and themes, I'm going to be looking at 10 more cancelled LEGO entries. When I say cancelled, I don't mean themes that ended or sets that retired, but rather sets, themes, and other LEGO products that were planned to release but never made it to store shelves. If you haven't already checked out my last two entries, both are linked in the description, but without further ado, let's get into this. Starting off the list is the LEGO Harry Potter set, Malfoy Manor. This was present in the LEGO Harry Potter Building the Magical World book from 2011. This set was based around the scene at the end of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 and would have included Harry, Hermione, Narcissa Malfoy, Bellatrix, and Ollivander. I actually wish this one was made because the playset reminds me of some of the random earlier LEGO Harry Potter sets. While I'm not really sure why this set never passed the sketch stage, I feel it has something to do with, well, spoiler alert, how this is the scene that injures Dobby to his death. That's sort of dark, even if he wasn't planned to be in this set. Thankfully, none of the characters were exclusive to this set, as we got our first and only Narcissa and Ollivander minifigures, both in summer 2011. Now, this is some never before heard LEGO news, so I have to be pretty vague for this entry to keep people protected, but you're gonna have to take my word for it. Sometime during 2015, LEGO planned to release a comic book based LEGO X-Men set, centered around Deadpool. This would be set 76060, a store exclusive, and had a release planned for spring 2016. However, that number is now taken up by the LEGO Doctor Strange set. So what happened? Well, I think LEGO caught wind that the Deadpool movie would be for adults and that this set would be released around the same time. To avoid confusion and angry parents, they just shifted production to a store exclusive Doctor Strange set. The result was a great set, so I really don't mind. I do hope that we get another set with Deadpool eventually, however. Not a Comic-Con exclusive that goes for $250. I mean, I own the original set that he came in, but I feel for those who love the character and can't get their hands on the original figure that goes for around $30 on eBay. If you're a LEGO Power Miners fan like myself, you may have noticed that in the 2010 wave of sets, vehicle number 13 is missing. And we have number 12, the Fire Blaster, but then the second most inexpensive set is 14, the Magma Mech. Clawcatcher is number 15, and with the vehicle in Lava Traz is number 16. What happened? Well, according to Mark Stafford, who has designed many different LEGO action themes, including a lot of the Power Miners sets, there was a 13th vehicle. Heck, Mark even provided these pictures of the build in the Brick Journal interview. The set was a dump truck-like build that transforms into a mech. Does it look familiar? Well, that's because the final product did come out, but not for LEGO Power Miners. It turned out to be the Undersea Explorer set for the LEGO Atlantis line, a Target exclusive released in August 2010. My friend Pen Kid pointed out that in the LEGO Atlantis story, they made the Undersea Explorer's backstory linked to Power Miners, tying it in with the development, saying it was a vehicle from the miners transferred to the Deep Sea Salvage team. Furthering the plotline, Brains from the Power Miners theme even appeared in a Power Miners like Atlantis set the following year. Sure, this particular Power Miners design was cancelled, but unlike many cancelled sets on this list, the design was at least used in another officially released set. There's been a lot of unreleased LEGO Star Wars prequel sets, and one of which that I haven't covered was the Self-Propelled Heavy Artillery Walker, or SPHA, a vehicle from Attack of the Clones. This was from the updated LEGO Star Wars Visual Dictionary, and honestly, I can't even speculate why it wasn't released. I mean, sure, it didn't have too much screen time, but we've had many sets that didn't have much screen time get multiple sets. Either way, a LEGO SPHA is one of the Star Wars vehicles that hasn't been released as a LEGO set, and who knows if it will ever be. Next up are two instances of cancelled LEGO related to the Ghostbusters 2016 movie. LEGO made two sets based off the movie, the Ecto 1 and 2 set, as well as the Ghostbusters story pack for LEGO Dimensions. However, at least one more set was definitely planned. I previously mentioned this in my LEGO Sets Era video, but an unused version of the Holtzman minifigure is shown in two different promotional images from LEGO themselves. This one lacks the weapons track the final figure has, and uses sunglasses. I mean, the final figure has two faces, one with goggles and one with no eyewear. More evidence of another planned set that never made it to store shelves comes from the initial LEGO Dimensions Year 2 leak, which LEGO accidentally put the names of the then upcoming LEGO Dimensions Year 2 packs on their website, accessible only through URL manipulation. All but 7 of the 22 initial set names discovered have been released. The ones that haven't been released was a second LEGO Ghostbusters 2016 movie pack, a third LEGO Adventure Time pack, and 5 titled Connectables. I mean, a third Adventure Time pack was released, but it didn't correspond with the 71249 set number. There's a lot of canceled LEGO Dimensions content in general. I've decided that the fourth part in the series of canceled LEGO items will be just dedicated to unreleased LEGO Dimensions products, so I'll be able to go more in depth as we get more information. For this entry, in 2013 there was a third LEGO game set that was cancelled. It was called Story Mixture, and according to the Purple Pawn, the description at the 2013 Toy Fair mentioned the inclusion of 20 objects, pawns, and a spinner. The goal of the game was to use the pawns and objects to tell a story on each player's turn. There was about 17 micro figures, with 8 gold ones and 9 different character types. 7 of these were from previous LEGO games, including Jay from Ninjago, and 2 were exclusive, a black mummy and a white astronaut. The set would retail for about $30 in the United States, planned for an August 2013 release. While the instructions were released in August, the set was not. My own speculative reason why this didn't get released is because of the death of the LEGO Games line in 2013, where many of the 2013 sets for LEGO Games had a very limited release. While it started out strong, the later sets just didn't sell as well from my own observation. Not only that, but I can only imagine these took a lot more money to make during the production line, where LEGO had to make the games fun, interesting, and unique. Alright, so this next entry is just a bunch of cancelled stuff from LEGO Classic Space. I have to give a big thanks to the website Blacktronite, which compiled many of these choices into one post. These would have been released around the late 1980s to early 1990s. The first one has a very early LEGO Alien minifigure. I think that figure looks creepily great. The big vehicle, however, is just too basic for my taste. This one seems to be an unreleased LEGO Blacktron design, one of the most beloved LEGO Space sub-themes, released from 1987 to 1988. These seem to be unreleased M-Tron sets, which was a sub-theme from 1990 to 1991. This one here is pretty interesting, what people call Graytron. This sub-theme was never released, but it would have came out in the early 90s. This also seems to be an unreleased sub-theme, not sure what's going on here, but it seems a bit similar to Space Police 2, which ran from 1992 to 1993. Here's another unreleased sub-theme, and then finally, there's this one with some nice purple. Purple's my favorite color, and if this was released in the early 1990s, I believe it would have been the first instance of purple LEGO bricks. Well, if I'm wrong about that, you'll see a billion comments about it below. Oh, actually, I almost forgot. There's this one set that was supposed to release in 1986, discovered by Brickset, and is currently present in the LEGO Vault. It definitely seems to be like a concept that was never finished. In December 2014, a plan for most of the LEGO direct-to-consumer sets and LEGO Store promotions appeared throughout various online LEGO communities. This gave us our first word of sets like the Ninjago Temple of Air Jitsu. However, to coincide with the release of the temple in September 2015, an exclusive LEGO Ninjago minifigure promotion was listed. Well, when the calendar was released for September 2015, no such minifigure was apparent on the calendar or given away at the store. Heck, the only exclusive promotional minifigure released in 2015 for LEGO Ninjago is the Kai from the Target minifigure cube. Not sure what exactly happened to this canceled promo, or what it would specifically contain, but either way, Ninjago fans are welcome to speculate about this minifigure that never was. The 9th entries are 2 cancelled LEGO video games that showed up at the same time. It's LEGO Space the video game and LEGO Castle the video game. These were teased at the top of the summer 2009 LEGO Castle and LEGO Space Police 3 sets boxes. Both were listed to already be released on the Nintendo DS. I remember seeing them when I got these sets early in May 2009 and getting hyped up. I mean, at the time, the Fantasy Era Castle sets was one of my favorite lines, and Space Police 3 was off to a great start in my opinion. I was less into licensed themes at the time, so having a video game based on the traditional LEGO play themes was an idea I was on board with. That was it though. There was no trailer for a LEGO Space or a LEGO Castle video game when I looked online, nor did any shops list the games despite the boxes claiming they're in stores. No such game came out, and instead a month later we got LEGO Battles. No offense to the fans of that game, but I saw the screenshots and decided, you know, it looks like a Game Boy Color game. I'll just save my money. That's what happened. The LEGO Space and LEGO Castle games were canceled in favor for a bigger LEGO real-time strategy game, which was LEGO Battles. It makes sense. Okay, so this last entry comes from All About Bricks. If you don't know what All About Bricks is, search up the name in quotes on my channel. Back around 2013, this blog would be the place for new LEGO rumors. It don't recall one time they provided wrong information. From quoting the Star Wars cameo in the Lego movie to 2014 set description in September 2013. Either way, in an article from August 2013 on the future of the Lego minifigures line, Graham from All About Bricks put out the claim that when the DC and Marvel superheroes theme started in 2012, 2 new minifigure series were considered, one for DC and one for Marvel. However, this would have increased the $3 price of the time, and non-licensed minifigures were still fresh and successful at the time, so the idea was dropped. Graham further mentioned how many of the Comic-Con exclusive minifigures were ideas that started off in these planned series. Look, eventually we did sort of get a LEGO DC superhero series with the LEGO Batman movie series, but seeing how Marvel and DC use minifigures to attract older buyers for sets with builds aimed towards younger kids, I doubt we'll ever get a generic DC and Marvel superheroes line. It's sad to hear these were planned, but cancelled. But hey, I would have said we'd never get a LEGO Simpsons minifigure series in a billion years, but we got 2 of those. Man, that's it for now. If you guys remember, I teased that I would be covering the canceled LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean Flying Dutchman set that was rumored to be released in 2012, but upon further research, that was a hoax. The set was never planned according to Fez on Eurobricks. Either way, let me know which of these unreleased LEGO sets and ideas you wanted the most down in the comments below, and I'll see you guys later. Peace out.